My first instance when I see AI is you don't believe it. You lose the trust. And I think, we've always had this belief that a photograph, what you see is true. Generally speaking, we would always believe what we saw was true. And I think now it's so completely shaken up that if I see an image and I kind of think it's unbelievable, it actually probably is not true. If it was magical, we would be completely drawn into it, whereas now I think I would just reject it. I don't trust it at all. But this magic's just going to be lost. It's going to be so bland. We're reproducing imageries that it's so biased and it's so bland because it's being reproduced on imagery that's been around for such a long time that it's just basically redesigning it and splurting it back out again. So there's nothing original. I think representation is going to be absolutely terrible because all the biases we've had before, how women are represented, how ethnic groups are represented, it's going to be carried on because AI is using all of this just to reconstitute new imagery. And so the natural balance that was starting to happen is just going to be halted. It's definitely a backward step. Authenticity is definitely the photographer engaging so much with what they're photographing that they're in it. So it's very much about them, myself, image makers, so interconnected with whatever they're shooting. It's very much a dance, and so the authenticity comes through being very at one with what you're photographing. So if you're feeling it and you're believing it, then that reality starts coming through your eyes. Of my family, it was an experience. We're on motorbikes in a field next to me. There were 50cc motorbikes and we were tiny, we were about 6 or 7 years old. And so it was exciting, it was sport, it was speed. And I was documenting, the people that were important in my life, my brother and my sister. I've lost the image, so I don't know where it's gone, but it was definitely this feeling that I was experiencing something and I was able to capture it. It was almost like I was able to carry some of it away with me. Yeah, it was definitely a precious moment. I think there's different types that I do, really. I'm very much into subgroups. People that choose to be passionate about something together collectively, they're generally quite marginalised. And I find that anybody that's passionate about what they do, I just find it so intriguing. I'm just curious. It's just completely about curiosity, and my camera gives me that little passport to kind of go in, bounce over to somebody and speak to them, it's fine. You're then probably stuck in that conversation. It's difficult to kind of back off again, whereas with a camera, you can see something that you're curious about. Everybody knows the game and the rules, so they know the game that if you can approach somebody with a camera, they know you're not going to probably stay there for a long time. You're going to discuss with them. I very rarely take somebody's photograph without their permission. It's very much my curiosity. I'm asking them about themselves. Unless I'm far away, and I will, I'm going up to them, I'm talking to them, and I'm interested about what they're wearing, or they're doing something really unusual, and I just want to know more. So I'm interested by other people. So I want to know more about them. I suppose I want to know their story, and my camera gives me a passport or a ticket to ask them questions. So I'm coming away with stories. If I get a great photograph at the same time, all the better. If I don't, I would be disappointed, but I've still got so much nourishment out of it. But I won't leave without a good photograph. So unless somebody's just saying categorically they don't want me to photograph them, I'll have to respect that. But generally speaking, I can be charming, I can be kind, I can be happy and fun, and so it's hopefully the people, whoever I'm speaking to, aren't offended, and so they, if they're passionate and I kind of bounce over and say, tell me about your passion, they're going to want to share it. So it's their stories that I want to find out more about, and my camera lets me in there, and then hopefully I come away with their stories in my head and my experience, but I also hopefully come away with their stories in my camera as well. Yes, I mean, it's just very different. But I do realise I went to an event recently and somebody was stood there that was a little bit weird, but he seemed quite nice, interesting. He was in costume, and so I was interested about his costumes. But I didn't want to be there all day. So I can use an in and outness that you're allowed without offending anybody, because they know that if you're there with cameras and a backpack with cameras, that you've gone on a mission, so they accept that you're going to come and go. And so to go and approach somebody, they understand what's going on, and so I'm not a threat I don't mean that sounds a little bit shallow, like I'm wanting to leave as soon as I've got what I want, but it's more of a case of there's a natural start and a natural end to it. It kind of feels like there's a amount of time that I can control within the, you know, as long as they're happy with, you know, how it is as well. I think this idea of wanting to collect people's stories, but there are these groups of people, these subcultures. I didn't realise I was attracted to people that were in their groups. It's not really individual people as such, it's people who collectively come together as individuals, and it's that collection, and it's the fact that they're doing something quite unusual or different and that they're truly passionate about it. So I think I didn't realise that before I started. My camera showed me that that was it. That I'm compassionate, that I have empathy, I suppose. I think that's the thing that I try my best to do with people. I would hate to take a photograph that offended somebody. I find very much anybody would interest me. I think there'd be very few people, and I could maybe think of some politicians that I wouldn't have less empathy for, but I think generally there's something in somebody that I can find, some thing that I feel I want to be kind towards. My girls. And I think when they were younger, I mean, they're now 21 and 19, and I think when they were younger and life was so simple for them, and they were so transparent in their emotions and so cute and innocent, and I think those would always be the pressure. And I mean, they still love them probably even more now, but I think that the innocence of that when they were children is just, yeah, gorgeous. I did a project this summer where I went to the Elvis convention in Wales, and I thought, well, that's just going to be incredible. 40,000 people go to this small, tiny little resort, and it's very run down. There's no money spent on it. It's a very poor area. Everybody's dressed up, and I was the only one who wasn't dressed up, but I was dressed up with my camera and my backpack. So they knew my part. They knew my player in the game. Everybody was just totally wonderful. You know, I think life's not so easy, and I think they were, it was an opportunity for them to get completely dressed up. But I think, you know, one time I was reflective on why am I enjoying this so much? And I think it's because people were just giving me so much. I think they were so open to it, and it was so joyous that I can remember, just bursting into tears, because I just kind of thought, you know, there was just a love for humanity. The people that didn't want a lot of grand things out of life. They just wanted to have a good time. And I think they were escaping from the humdrum of their normal lives and just going to dress up and be Elvis for the day. And I think, you know, they were just really sweet people. No. I've been around shooting for about 20 years. There's definitely ups and downs. I went back to college. I'd never been to art school. I went to do an MA. And I felt quite embarrassed about it. You know, I had an agent in London, an agent in New York, and yet I was going to go back to be a student. And so I didn't really tell anybody about it until I started. But once I started to study, I kind of absolutely blew my mind. And then I started to talk to people. I said, everybody needs to study, it's incredible. So I studied a topic. My topics happened to be feminism, because I had my 2 daughters that were growing up. And I was looking at girlhood and girl confidence, because that's what my life was about, with the girls. And my camera was just a tool, so I used my camera to explore this and just did loads of projects. It was absolutely brilliant. So that then takes you back up again. At the moment, I'm on an absolute high, and I can't stay up there for forever. It's going to come back down again, but at the moment it's kind of, can't get enough of it. So I know that if it starts coming down, then I will do another project that takes me back up again, or just carry it down and then go back up again. So it's the natural kind of equilibrium, really. Well, if I couldn't take a photograph, it would have to be through speech, I think. When I have done exhibitions, I am dyslexic, so my vocabulary is more limited. I think writing would be really difficult for me, but I think speaking about it, I've always incorporated sound into my exhibitions. What do I love about myself? I think I'm a good mum. I think I've got two amazing girls, which I'm going to cry about now, but they are good. So I've done some of that. I've done a good job there, and they will hopefully, if they choose to have a family, carry that on. Yeah, I think they're both creative. I should be more confident than I am. Maybe I am getting to that age now anyway. I kind of think I've wasted a lot of years not being as confident. I am now, but I kind of think that's always been maybe a regret that I've allowed that confidence when I was younger to not push I've always pushed myself, but I've always had to work twice as hard. When actually I should have just put my prices up, because and then when I did, they paid me, and so now I do, but I think when you're younger, you kind of don't realise you can do that. Be passionate about what you do, and always, if you're creating, create something that you're passionate about, not something that you think you should be photographing. So I think it's got to be really follow your gut and really have that central in what you're doing, and then because you'll put time and energy into it, but it'll be authentic and it will be real, and people will see you in it. In fact, it's about putting yourself into it wholeheartedly. Yes, very much so. I mean, I've definitely been doing stuff where, especially when I was younger, where I didn't want to do it because I was maybe a bit scared. But that's not, my gut was saying I should do it. When we're younger, you do. I mean, it is a scary thing. You're just a one-person band, everything. You've got to do it all. You've got to go and sell yourself. You've got to go and create an amazing image. You can I've been on set with 120 people and everybody's turning around and looking at you, and you've got to deliver, and it's pressurised, and you kind of don't want to do that because it's scary, but at the same time you do want to do it because you want to do it, and so it's kind of a bit of a fight. It's definitely a high. I mean, you come away absolutely buzzing. Yeah, I think you just really focus on what's in front of you. I can remember on that particular shoot, it was 120 people, there was another photographer there, and he kind of said, "You're not very nervous?" And I said, "Well, I'm fine. I've started shooting now," and I think that's it. I think it's before you take the first shot. It's just, you just want to get on, and the minute you take the first shot, I think you then start to relax, because then it's like, right, I know where I am now. The system starts going, you start going, but it's the anticipation before that I kind of find quite frustrating. I mean, I've learnt now just to chill, but I think when you were younger, you would use a lot of energy up at that stage. Yeah, I think, I live in the countryside, so I do spend a lot of time in nature. I mean, I windsurf obsessively. I don't photograph my windsurfing, strangely. I've tried to, but that's a big release. So it's a physical, it's physical, and it's cold and it's windy, and it's kind of, I wear a helmet and body armour, so it's kind of an element of danger. So that's any pent anxiety is kind of lost. So that's, the windsurfing balances that side out. So it works well. Well, I suppose it depends on me. So when I did the Elvis convention, I arrived really early. Within an hour, I'd literally taken the best shots that felt I could take. And in a normal shoot, if I go off and do any personal work, I'll go for three or 4 hours. If I get 5 shots that I'm happy with, I'll be happy. And I'd already taken 20 in the first hour. I just felt it and knew it, and I was just there. It was great. And after 2 hours, I was absolutely spent. I thought, right, I just need to go and have a coffee. And I went and sat on the promenade and looked out on this beautiful seascape. But then it came to the end of the day, and I was now absolutely and utterly spent. There was nothing else to give. And the sun was going down, and all this beautiful light was coming in, and I was going, oh, I've got to take some more shots. It's just perfect. But I was so tired that I just couldn't physically give any more, and I was really apparent how much I am in the photograph. So when you say percentage, I don't know, like in the morning, maybe 80%, and in the afternoon, maybe 5%. And so it really showed. The people didn't smile at me as much, they didn't turn around, they didn't offer me themselves, their body language was different, there wasn't the trust. I've really got to pull people in. I'm going to take your photograph, and I'm not going to make you look stupid or silly or ridiculous. I'll represent you in a way that's fit and that's kind to you. And I've got to give them all that message instantly with a lot of energy, because I want them to give me a lot of energy back. I think the soul, I think it's trust. So it's kind of, I learnt quite early on that if I want somebody to do something, I've got to do it first. If I want them to be a bit silly, I've got to kind of make funny noises myself and say, look, I'm doing it, trust me. Because if I just say, we all stand there with, folded arms and say, right, just do it, it's really asking a big leap of faith. Whereas I'm playing their dance with them, it's a lot of eye contact, it's a lot of engagement, it's a lot of them, being in with me. I'm not allowing them to look at anybody else, they're just with me. It's the thing, I'm with you, I'm holding your hand, I'm not going to make you look stupid. Even if I ask you to do something that's going to be a little bit cheesy, I'm going to ask you to do that because I know the minute you've done something really cheesy, you're going to laugh authentically. And that's the split second afterwards. So I said, don't worry, we're not going to use anything that looks silly because nobody wants to look stupid. So, but people will strangely trust me. Well, I'm returning to Thailand where I used to live to go and do a project there. I definitely want to do more projects that are helping people. I'm going to do some charity work out there, as in photograph for charity. I think when you get older, you want to put something back. There's definitely stages, isn't there, of you establish yourself when you're young and you want to, quite competitive. And then the middle stage, I'm maintaining that. And then I'm maybe a bit more towards the stage where I'm going, right, I'm really established now, I'm really comfortable, I'm working hard. AI's making me work hard. That's maybe not a bad thing. But I can afford to not relax, but have time to put something back as well. So I think that's what I'd like to focus on. Just creating more art. And number 3, my goals, well, I suppose just keeping the ship going, supporting the family and keeping the finances coming through. So that's always back of your mind. It's always got to play there. You just got to make sure it's as close to your personal work as you can be so that you're shooting what you love, but at the same time, you've still got to pay the bills, so you've got to manage that. I lived there when I was 23 to 25 and I was a teacher before I became a photographer. So I worked for the British Council. I've been back, I've done shoots in Thailand, had some commissions there, but I've not really been back to visit. And there was a friend I had called Na, who was from the hill tribes that we all kind of hung out together, and some of our friends, Thai friends, had bars and we lived together. It was all very mixed. We were young, all kind of Thais and British and South African and American, all kind of growing up together, being young adults. And I lost contact with Na, and I found it when I went back to Bangkok for a shoot a few years ago. I couldn't find her, and I was determined, I wanted to find her. And I found a piece of paper that was an email of 2001, and it had her email address on, so I emailed it and it bounced back. Before the email was her name, because Na's just a nickname, I didn't even know her real name. And in brackets it said this long name, I can't remember her name, and I thought, I wonder if that's her name, and I typed it in and she came up and she was in Chiang Mai, this woman, and I thought, is that Na? And she had she set up a charity for a Karen Hill tribe, and I thought, it must be her. And I thought, well, that just sorts it. There's my charity that I want to work with. I can see her again. I can go back to her village that I went to, all those years ago. So it's going to be amazing. So a ritual, that's amazing, isn't it? I don't have a ritual, but I'm really intrigued about anybody else's ritual. No, I mean, the biggest thing I have to do is check that my equipment is there. I mean, it's a really boring, technical, laborious thing. Because I've got a list that's so specific, and you actually go through each thing, because if this doesn't work, doesn't matter how good you are, you need your cameras to work, you need backup cameras, you need backup laptops, backup cables, backup everything. So the list has to be absolutely nailed. So yeah, just making sure I have all my kit, and I won't get into the car until I've done that. Incidentally, on my very first shoot, which was down in London, it was for Coffee Republic, and I don't even know if they exist anymore. It's for a coffee shop, and I didn't properly check my kit before I went, and I had all my kit, it was fine. But because I hadn't checked it, I was really anxious all the way there. I was anxious about the shoot, I didn't even have an assistant. But that anxiety was so much that when I finished the shoot, I had to go to the cash point to get some cash out, and I couldn't remember to this day what my PIN number was because I had so much anxiety, based around not being on it. So yeah, my ritual would be my kit. It would probably be my insides, like my heart and my gut, I think. I think I'm quite emotional. I'm an emotional photographer. Can you photograph that? Photograph your gut? Won't be pretty. Wow, title. These are good questions, they're difficult. She did it. She made it. She did it, she made it, and she loved doing it, and it was great fun. Great. Thanks, guys.